How do you sell a truck that's more expensive than its competitors with a cab that towers almost 3 meters above the road? In 1977, Volvo took a risk and introduced the new F-Series. On the outside, the truck looked monumental and imposing. The distinctive massive rectangular grille, the round headlights integrated into the bumper, which would later be replaced by rectangular ones, and the overall boxy shape became Volvo's design signature for many years, creating the image of a reliable and solid workhorse. At first, the Germans looked at it with suspicion, complaining about its aerodynamics and how disconnected it felt from the road. But very quickly, the Swedes proved to the entire market that this truck was worth every penny. The story of the Volvo F12 is the story of a truck that made Europe rethink its standards for comfort, safety, and efficiency. The previous F88 and F89 truck series were far from perfect. Their reliability was questionable and the cab was clearly in need of an update. That's why the main sensation of the new lineup, which debuted in Frankfurt in the fall of 1977, wasn't the powertrain, but the completely new all-metal cab. Swedish engineers focused on safety and quietness. The area of the windshield increased by 30% and the side windows by as much as 65%, with 3 wipers added, each with 2 speeds. The cab was reinforced with a sheet of high-strength steel from the bottom of the window down to the floor level, and special reinforcements were installed in the doors to distribute the load in the event of a collision. The bumpers were lowered to give passengers in cars a better chance of survival in a crash. To definitively prove the unprecedented strength of the new design, Volvo relied on the famous Swedish cap test. It was much stricter than the general European standards. A 1-ton load was dropped onto the cab roof, and then the front pillars were struck with a massive pendulum. The F-Series cab withstood this abuse, preserving the driver's survival space even after a series of such devastating impacts. But what impressed most was the sound insulation. Journalists who were the first to test the vehicle wrote that it was so quiet inside the cab, the only sound left was the ticking of the tachograph. Because of this, drivers who were used to shifting gears by listening to the turbo whistle had to retrain themselves and pay close attention to the instruments. Besides the quiet, the designers also took care of the ergonomics, which at that time seemed exemplary. The steering wheel could be adjusted for reach within a range of 20 centimeters and for height by 4 centimeters. The seat backs could be adjusted within a range of 64 degrees, and the instruments themselves were fitted with anti-glare glass. For storing belongings, there was a convenient compartment above the instrument panel, a large trunk behind the driver that could be unlocked from inside but also accessed from outside, and even a real safe for valuables in the upper part of the engine compartment. Formally, the engines remained the same, but they underwent a thorough modernization. The junior Volvo F10 received a 10-liter TD100B engine with 280 horsepower, while the flagship Volvo F12 hit a 12-liter TD120C unit under the hood, which produced 330 horsepower at 2,200 revolutions per minute. The Swedes also kept the familiar transmission. It was a dual-range 4-speed gearbox with a splitter, which gave a total of 16 gears. The weight of the truck itself hardly changed. The cab became heavier, but the frame and suspension slimmed down thanks to the use of high-strength steel and parabolic springs, which had previously only been offered as an option. The real test for the vehicle came during trials on German roads in 1979 and 1981. At first, German drivers criticized the F12 for its high cab, with the floor sitting 1,324 millimeters above the ground. But in practice, it turned out that this seating position had some serious advantages. Dirt and stones kicked up by the wheels simply couldn't reach the windshield, and visibility in snowy weather remained perfect. In 1981, the Swedes launched the top-of-the-line Volvo F12 intercooler on the German market. Its TD120F engine delivered an unprecedented 360 horsepower and 1,540 Newton-meters of torque for that time. Such power was dictated by Swedish laws, which allowed road trains with a total weight of up to 52 tons, whereas in Germany the limit was only 38 tons. According to German laws, 228 horsepower was enough for such a weight. That's why Volvo's 360 horsepower monster seemed to local journalists like something beyond reason. Delivering 9.2 horsepower per ton of weight, this powerful engine with an intercooler also became a large-scale correction of the mistakes made in its predecessor, the F89. The engineers used new, higher-capacity fuel pumps, changed the valve timing, reduced the compression ratio, and installed new pistons. This made it possible to eliminate the old problems with bearings and piston seizure. The unit received a redesigned cooling system and an intelligent pre-start heating system. If the antifreeze temperature dropped below 50 degrees, the heater would automatically turn on for 50 seconds during startup. In addition, thanks to intercooling, the temperature of the exhaust gases was reduced, which significantly extended the diesel engine's lifespan. Moreover, Volvo engineers started thinking not only about durability, but also about the environment long before it became mainstream. Optimizing the fuel combustion process with the help of the intercooler not only increased power, but also noticeably reduced harmful emissions, anticipating the strict environmental standards that would only appear in Europe decades later. A new, lighter 12-speed gearbox was specially developed for this powerful engine, capable of handling torque up to 1,600 Newton-meters. The performance was impressive. The loaded tractor accelerated to 80 km per hour in exactly 50 seconds, outpacing its competitors. But during the economic crises of the late 70s, the main criterion was fuel consumption. And here, Volvo performed brilliantly. On a mountain route, at an average speed of 71 km per hour, the truck consumed 37 liters, in a mixed cycle, up to 30 liters, and on a flat highway, fuel consumption dropped to 24 liters per 100 kilometers. The secret to this success lay in using a hypoid rear axle gear instead of traditional planetary mechanisms. At a speed of 80 km per hour, the Volvo engine maintained just 1,300 RPM, delivering 292 horsepower. A perfect balance of power and efficiency. A key factor that completed the picture of the perfect long-haul truck was the suspension. The standard parabolic leaf springs provided such a smooth ride that journalists compared it to air suspension, although real air suspension was also available. For the 4x2 versions, it cost an additional 6,860 German marks. Along with the spring-mounted cab and the new air-suspended seat, the driver enjoyed an exceptionally high level of comfort that fully lived up to the advertising promises. In 1983, the vehicle underwent a major upgrade. The roof became higher, the windshield larger, and the climate control system learned to automatically maintain the temperature. For an extra 2,100 marks, you could get a real air conditioner installed. But the real luxury was the famous Globetrotter cab with an interior height of 197 centimeters, which turned the tractor into a home on wheels, although this option cost a whopping 10,900 marks. Even in its basic configuration in 1984, the Volvo F12 intercooler cost 158,500 marks, placing it at the top price segment alongside the top MAN models and making it more expensive than its counterparts from Scania, Renault, and Mercedes-Benz. The price difference between a cheaper competitor and the Volvo was enough to buy a used semi-trailer. However, transport companies knew how to calculate the total cost of ownership. Quality, reliability, and fuel efficiency made all the difference. In just the first 9 months of 1984, Volvo's sales in the German market jumped by 60%. The recognition of this engineering and commercial triumph was the prestigious Truck of the Year title, which the updated series won in 1984. Interestingly, this vehicle became iconic not only in Western Europe. The F-Series was successfully exported to other continents, enduring the scorching heat of the Middle East and the rough terrain of South America. And for the drivers of the Soviet company Sovtransavto, getting behind the wheel of such a Swedish foreign truck was a real dream and the pinnacle of a career, because the level of comfort compared to domestic trucks seemed absolutely out of this world. This lineup stayed on the assembly line until 1993, constantly evolving. In the final years of production, the F12 even started to feature the first electronic injection control systems, paving the way for the full computerization of trucks. And in 1987, the Swedes would take another powerful step forward by releasing the flagship Volvo F16 with a new 16-liter engine producing 470 horsepower, which would be their answer to the constantly increasing weight of European road trains. During this time, Volvo would not only secure its place among the leaders of the European market, but also impose its own rules of the game on the entire automotive industry. By the end of its life cycle, the F12 would even manage to take part in the great flagship battle against the new generations of Scania and Mercedes-Benz, forever leaving its mark on the history of truck manufacturing. And when, in 1993, the completely new FH series comes to replace it, it won't just take over from the veteran, but will continue the philosophy of safety, comfort, and innovation that was established by the great F series.